Hi, friends. I think it's Thursday, the 20th. Not quite yet to Thanksgiving per my last video, but I'm so glad that you're here. I am going to try to do this earlier than midnight. I don't even know what time it is right now. It's 7:45-ish on Thursday, the 20th of February. And we're going to talk about two things tonight. We're going to talk about a new letter that we got from the president of the Fairfield Harbour Property Owners Association. And we're going to talk about RFID, radio frequency, something, something. It's a new sticker they want us to put in our cars so that they can track our comings and goings. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. I have not yet been talking about that because I just have so many reasons. But we are going to talk about it tonight. So this isn't going to be as long as I choose to make it, obviously. But I'm glad that you're here tonight. My beverage of choice, because it's Thursday night, it's not quite Friday, is I made a pot of tea and we are having tea. This came from the Hawaiian company, the Hawaiian Vanilla Company or something like that. They are on the Big Island in Hawaii. And this is the last little bit I had in the little plastic bag that we brought back from our last trip to Hawaii. So hopefully I'll make it back soon and we'll be able to get some more. um, God, so good. Okay, so let's talk about this letter from the Fairfield Harbour Property Owners Association. As we all know, over 40, put your glasses on. Okay, so let's add this. So our topic 1. Again, I redacted my email address. For those that live here, you know how to get in touch with me if you need me. Okay. Fairfield Harbour Property Owners Association Bulletin dated today, February 20th. It came out around 3:19 p.m. Letter from your board president, that is Les Pendleton. Update from FH Stop lawsuit against our community. Most Fairfield Harbour residents know by now that a group has filed a lawsuit against the entire community. This past year, in response to actions and demands they have made against the community, the Property Owners Association, I think it's fun that now it's all of us. That's so cute. All of us has spent over $100,000 in legal fees to defend ourselves. Keep in mind that some of those funds came from the people that filed the lawsuit. They realize and understand and know that they are on both sides of this fence and they take that responsibility. Okay. This is in addition to the thousands spent conducting 2 recall elections last year, one of them less than 1 month prior to a general election of the same 2 candidates. In our opinion, a total senseless waste of our community's money. Note that whenever we use the word our in this sentence, it does not include all of us, because not all of us believe that this was a total senseless waste of our community's money. Actually, a majority of us voted to remove those 2 candidates regardless of when they were going to be back up for re-election. So there's that. But let's see, where was I? Total senseless waste of our community's money. Now that a lawsuit has been filed, we will have to defend the community in court at great additional expense. Fairfield Harbour will be represented in this matter by experts in this field, and we will prevail. This will not be settled quickly and will involve many depositions, motions, and hearings to bring it to a conclusion. All of this will cost us money. The community has insurance that will cover fees to the principal law firm representing us, but there is a deductible of up to $25,000. Plus, there will be an additional cost in the thousands and loss of productive time by our already overworked POA staff. I didn't read this before I started reading it. Okay. The board of directors the board of directors worked overtime during the past few months to prepare a feasible budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Oh, while I'm hold, please. All right, we're gonna. Oh, do I have it downloaded already? Because I did it for the. Nope, not this one. Hold, please. I am looking for the budget document. Hold, please. Should I have been prepared for this? I should have, but was not. Because again, I didn't read this ahead of doing this. The budget meeting was in January. Can we download you, please? And now I'm going to add it. Give me 1 second, y'all. I found it. It's here. It's coming. Give me 1 second. All right. Let me add slides. Okay. All right. So I'm back. All right. The board of directors worked overtime in the past few months to prepare a feasible budget for the upcoming fiscal year. It was not an easy task with many unforeseen costs. I don't know how we unforesee costs. We knew this lawsuit was coming. I can't imagine that is the only unforeseen cost given everything that's going on in this community. But with 7 people on a board, many of which have been on there multiple years in a row, we should not really have unforeseen costs. With many unforeseen costs totaling thousands of dollars to be considered, we were able to make it work by trimming projects and holding the line so that no dues increase occurred, at least for the upcoming year, which means that there's dues increases occurring. Okay. No one knows what inflation will be like in the future and what costs they will bring to the community. Future boards will have to deal with that as it occurs. That said, we do not have extra funds to deal with the constant lawsuits and threats from groups within our community, including in our community's 2024-2025 uniform annual charge. There is a stated contingency amount of $200 per lot to be billed if needed. This is usually things for natural disasters, like when Hurricane Florence hit Fairfield Harbor. We had a lot of properties. There was FEMA help. There was a lot of things that Florence took out, and these contingency funds, not included in the dues that you pay every year, but you are expected to keep on hand because should something catastrophic occur within the year, we are able to fund that additional work. To be billed if needed in order to replenish reserves that were depleted by last year's legal costs. There were so many things that depleted our reserves, and this has been an ongoing issue. The fact that our reserves are not fully funded, that's been something that's been talked about for as long as we've lived here. So, I mean, I think I've heard about it in every single budget meeting every year since 2021, which is when we moved in. I believe we have talked about why the reserves are not fully funded. So to say that they are not fully funded because of this lawsuit, which did not get filed until February of 2025, do not be misled by that. It says, I'm going to reread this sentence. In order to replenish reserves that were depleted by last year's legal costs and to prepare for additional legal costs in defense of the lawsuit. The lawsuit that when you were putting the budget together in the overtime over the last few months, you couldn't have known about per your last email because you seemed to have been blindsided in the first letter that came out to our community. So the fact that now our reserves are not full, our coffers are not overflowing because we've been preparing for these additional legal expenses, I don't buy it. Mm-mm. The board has authorized the billing of $50 of the contingency amount to each property owner. So that means there will be $150 left in our contingency. And this is not per property owner. This is per lot owned. We have some people in Fairfield Harbor, their house, the way that it is situated, Fairfield Harbor charges them for 2 lots, even though they're only paying property taxes on a singular home. They pay for 2 lots in our community. We own multiple homes in Fairfield Harbor, so we will pay multiple $50 fees because it's not per property owner, it is per lot owned. I am only making the assumption based off of how our dues are paid annually. Property owners are being given 30 days notice in advance of the due date of this contingency amount. So we get 30 days to find $50. We regret this necessity as it goes against everything we tried to do with the budget, but it is needed to cover the costs of having to defend the Property Owners Association against the pending lawsuit. Any unused portion of these monies collected will be placed on the contingency fund. I'm reading this again. We have 30 days prior to the due date of this contingency amount. We regret this necessity as it goes against everything we tried to do with the budget, but it is needed to cover the costs of having to defend the Property Owners Association against the pending lawsuit. Any unused portion of monies collected will be placed in the contingency fund. See, this is why I have a hard time because then I start going down rabbit holes. I am searching our budget. Let me just switch over here. Remember that we are in the first paragraph here. What I'm doing is searching in this document, which I have up on another screen here, the word contingency. And it does not find that word. So let me just scroll here for a quick second because I do want you to note that right here, I don't know, let me just take myself off this. If you look here under expenses, so under the very first blue line, there's expenses, total direct labor, operational expenses, legal expenses. In the budget for 2024 to 2025, our legal expenses budget was $178,039. Actual was $95,202. Do I not have a phone up here? Oh, I do. Okay. So hold on a second. So we budgeted for last year $178,039, and we only spent $95,202. So that's $82,837 that we did not spend that was put in the budget last year. So why are we not using that money? Why does that money not carry forward into the legal expenses needed for this year? I don't know. Anyway, so in addition to the $82,837 we did not spend last fiscal year, we have forecasted in the budget for this coming year legal expenses to be $156,000. I don't understand. So $156,000 plus the $82,837,000 we didn't spend is $238,000. 238,837. I don't understand. I Again, this letter is not going to clarify, nor are we gonna tie the dots back to the budget. This is the open, transparent communication where you help us understand the logic train for how we get to needing this $50 when we had not used over $80,000 from what we had budgeted and set aside in last fiscal year. So also, this $50 per lot times in the budget for this year, we're estimating that we have 2,824 lots. That's $141,200. So if we take the $141,200 and we add the $156,000 that we have for the budget this year that was approved, and we take the, like, roughly what did we say? Let me just go back here. So we had budgeted 178,039 minus we only spent 95,202. So that left us with an overage in our budget of $82,837. Then we're going to take and add the 141,000 plus the 156,000. That's $379,837 in just what should be in a legal fee budget line item for this year. And we are a nonprofit, so there shouldn't be any monies. But the fact that we're just going to not give the monies back to the people that paid them in, but we're going to put them in another line item in the budget, right? It's kind of like a gift card. We're going to put money on the gift card, but then let's say that you don't spend all the money on the gift card. After a certain amount of time, that money just stays with the company, right? Like, that's why that's such a lucrative model. That's what we're doing here. I just don't understand. And again, no one's going to be super transparent and forthcoming in how we take the overage of what we did, the $82,000 that we didn't spend in legal fees that was approved in the budget for last year, plus this $50 per 2,824 lots, plus the budgeted amount for this coming year, $156,000. I don't understand the need for the contingency fee when we have more than half of the dollars already from last year's budget that we didn't spend. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Next paragraph. So this is still the letter from Les Pendleton to us today. The principal claim against the community is to reverse the bylaw change approved by your board of directors that increased the votes required to remove board members without cause to 67% of all eligible property owners. Again, I did 2 previous live streams on this. I did one, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I literally read through the first letter that we got and the entire lawsuit, like 36 pages ish. And then I went through a second live stream where we read through all of the attachments. That is the crux of this lawsuit. So I'm not going to rehash that here, but you can absolutely go back and listen to those. The reasoning behind this change was to keep a small percentage of disgruntled property owners from recalling duly elected board members at any time when they disagreed with board actions, even if it's less than 1 month before an election that is already announced. Okay. Well, here's the deal about that. This small percentage of disgruntled property owners was a majority of all of the property owners eligible to vote that voted to boot them out. So the small percentage of disgruntled property owners is not a small percentage. It was 52.31%, which is more than half. So let's not mince words here, okay? And the timing was unfortunate, but the timing was what the timing was, and the point needed to be made. Obviously, more than half of the community thought so that voted. So to the current board, it made no sense and cost us all unnecessarily. It would to you because you love power, I guess. That's what I take from it. The group of 71 owners who filed the lawsuit is doing this ultimately because they want a board more aligned with their way of thinking. What does that mean? It means they want to control the community even if they don't represent the wishes of a majority of property owners. And again, I think the board, if this message is on behalf of the entire board, you're missing the point. First of all, I think you're making a lot of assumptions by saying we filed this because ultimately they want the board more aligned with their thinking. I think that's reaching a little far because you don't know what they think, because you won't ask them what they think. And they sent you a letter last year letting you know that if this was not resolved amicably, that this action would be taken. Like you knew this was coming. Again, you knew this was coming. So, having said that, again, it's not even the group of 71 owners, okay? There were 74 people on this, so we don't even have that right? Like, if you can't do how you do one thing is how you do everything. I think we've talked about that a lot as it related to the traffic adjudicatory panel, as it talked about the process maps that we have flowing around. How you do one thing is how you do anything. So if we can't even get the details right on what actually is happening, that's where the trust is breaking down, okay? So the group of 71 who filed the lawsuit is doing this ultimately because you don't know why ultimately. You're putting words in somebody else's mouth. What does this mean? It means they want to control the community even if they don't represent the wishes of a majority of property owners, and that is false. A majority of property owners voted to remove those two board members, regardless of when it happened. A majority voted. Those two board of director members would still be in office if a majority had not shown up. So, again, for those that are new to the community, welcome. We are so glad that you're here. But please don't take things at face value here when it comes to this lawsuit, our budget, the way that we communicate within this community. We all love living here. I think I speak for pretty much everybody that has not chosen to put their house on the market yet. We love living here. We love the location. We love our neighbors. But this kind of stuff, it does not fly. And if we let it fly once, we set a precedent that it doesn't really matter. You can kind of come and do what you want. No, you cannot. There is a system of checks and balances. We are the members. We hold you accountable for making sure that you're doing what a majority of the community wants. And you weren't doing that. So two were voted off. It's important to understand that elections for the board of directors occurs every single year, and a majority of property owners can change the membership on the board as they see fit in that election, whether you agree or disagree with the leadership of the current board. That annual board election only requires a simple majority of votes to be cast. So you only need a majority to get voted in, but now you need a super majority to be voted out, and that's where the disconnect lies. That's part of this whole lawsuit, okay, is the fact that you only need 51%, 50 plus 1 to get in, but yet you need 67% to be taken out. So if a majority don't agree with what the current board is doing, they cannot take action. You need a majority plus another several hundred people, right? Like, I don't know. And the way that it was done, I think more so for me, the fact that this was done and we didn't raise it to a supermajority to be voted in, but it's only to be voted out after a majority votes you in, that that kind of unevenness in the way that we can pull people in and out of our board, that's one issue. But the way in which this was done, kind of stuck in on an agenda at the end of a meeting when people that were new to the board could not affect change at that meeting because everybody else was on the same page. They were protecting their own asses. I mean, at the end of the day. And Mhm. But yes, every year we have a board election. Okay. So you can vote. The annual board election only requires a simple majority. Two current board members, including myself, will be leaving the board this spring. Neither of these board members is running for reelection. Great. Lastly, many community members have asked the board if the property owners will be able to recoup this large expenditure of cash from those filing the suit against the property owners. The answer is we will not take any sort of retaliatory actions against FH Stop members personally, but our response to the lawsuit will ask for reimbursement of all costs, including legal fees and actual damages we incur defending the community. The court will make that determination. The last time a group of owners sued the POA in 2013, I wonder why this keeps happening. The court did require those plaintiffs to reimburse legal costs to the POA of around $110,000. Our community and property values have thrived without lawsuits and division for the last 10 or more years. The board, on behalf of all property owners, will vigorously defend against these charges and assure all members that no action will be taken by this board on this issue. Or, I'm sorry, wait, I've obviously missed some. The board, on behalf of all property owners, will vigorously defend against these charges and assure all members that no action taken by this board on this issue was taken without the direct advice of our experienced and competent legal counsel. It is important for all property owners to understand that the board I can't hold on, that the board majority has acted at all times keeping in mind the big picture of what is best for the community. Les Pendleton. So that's your update on where we stand paying $50. And I said it on Facebook. I will say it here. For every dollar I give the POA in contingency fees. Okay, can we just back up to the money thing again? I pulled up the budget and we talked through the fact that we had an overage in legal fees, right, from last year. Then we have the money in the budget for this year's legal fees that were approved, plus this $50 contingency fee per lot. And nothing is said about, okay, if these 74 members lose, if they lose and have to pay these monies back per court order, what happens to that money? Do we get our $50 back per lot? Is it going to be put towards the reserves that are currently not completely funded? Is it going to be, I mean, why do we need a contingency budget if there's no kind of named tropical storm on the immediate horizon? How are those things going to be handled? So those are questions that I still have, but I still follow the money, right? Like that's what we're always told. We're looking for something, follow the money. And I just find it really hard to believe that we need a contingency fee already when we had $82,000 left over in legal fees put aside that were not used last fiscal year, plus the monies that have been earmarked for this next fiscal year. I just, with no notice about what happens if the plaintiffs do have to pay this money back, what then happens to all of the money? Like, did you get $1 million to, I, it's a message for the, I guess the treasurer. We'll ask that question. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, we're going to move on to RFID. RFID. Radio frequency identification, RFID is what that stands for. And we got this letter from the POA. I don't know, it's been a while, like a week or so ago. Let me look up and see when we got it. 2/14. It was sent with love. I have no doubt. RFID. RFID, radio frequency identification, vehicle credential installation information. Ooh, did I miss a message? Hold on. I feel like before we got the installation information, there was a message that came before that. There is. I'm going to just share my screen. Hold on. Can I just pull up this email? I mean, it's basically the same thing that's in this letter, but this letter is a little bit, it's, oh shoot. It is, I'm just gonna save this. I printed it. You're gonna hear my printer go off in just a second. Okay. I'm gonna pull this up, but I feel like this has been talked about in the bulletin and or one of the weekly updates, if not more. My computer. Okay, so this is the email that we got. All right, well, there's my email address, whatever. I do put some pre-work into this whenever I have the time to redact stuff like that, but feel free to email me if you ever have any questions. We're looking forward to implementing the next phase of our RFID project, vehicle RFID credential installation for gate access. So phase 2 is installation. Phase 1, I can only assume, was the getting Hosted America in here, which I believe is going to be the internet service provider that is the foundation for this tracking, and then getting there's a new reader at the front gates. So I'm assuming that's phase 1. You will also be receiving an email through AppFolio, also known as Front Steps. If you are missing one email or the other, please call the office so we can update your email address. The first dates for vehicles to have credentials installed is Monday, February 17th from 9 to noon and 1 to 4. So if you're working, sorry. If you plan to come by on Monday, please it doesn't matter about later in the week, but whatever. If you plan to come by Monday, please be sure to be ready with the following. Print the attached form, vehicle RFID information card, and fill it out completely for your vehicle. We must have individual email addresses so that when we share the phone application, each individual will be able to use the application. If you share an email, only one person will have access to the application to share guest passes. So my husband and I share an email for a couple of our businesses, and we basically have the exact same app, and we log in with the exact same username and password. Like, we both have that. And those things work fine for us. So unless it's capturing data from your phone, like the individual device IP address or some other identifier for that device, which they have not shared what information, which is my big issue. They have not shared what information is going to be captured and how they are keeping that information private. And we are going to go through that in detail in this next little bit. So hang tight. But if you share an email address with your husband or business partner or whatever, just know. Maybe you have a new driver, right? They just same app. unless they, again, have some kind of mechanism for tracking the individual device in which you are logging in on, you don't need individual email addresses. Bring your ID. We will need to verify residency to the harbor. I'm assuming that a property bill or something like that, especially for those that don't live here full time, I'm sure that that will suffice, or maybe the deed to your property or your closing documents, especially for those new members. And again, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. And then bring $10 cash per vehicle or check made payable to FHPOA. I think it's fun that we have this $10 cash per vehicle. I mean, you definitely want something that's trackable. Obviously, that's why we're doing RFID. But there's also a $5 option and a free option. So you don't need to bring $10 cash if you're choosing one of the other options. Please note the adhesive credential is non-transferable. We will have volunteers on site to install for you. If you prefer to install it, we will give you instructions. They're in here. Please enter the entrance closest to the community center and proceed to the first table. Then pay at the next table, and you will be instructed to the next available lane for installation. Exit through the far exit. The next dates for vehicle RFID installation are Friday, February 1st, same times, 9 to 11 or 1 to 4. Or I'm sorry, 1 to 3 to allow for school bus drop off. And Saturday, February, that's where those of us that work Monday through Friday can go. Saturday, February 22nd from noon to 4. It's just unfortunate. I'll be trying. So I guess I'm just out on this one. But our official rollout is March the 1st. Okay. And all credentials will be activated by March 1st or earlier. Okay. So it's important that you do this. Sorry, I'm pouring more tea. If you want to be able to use it by March 1st. A town hall meeting for all of your questions to be answered is scheduled for February 25th at 6 p.m. at the community center. We will describe the next phases of the project, including RFID cards, the phone app, and guest passes, and more at that meeting. I'm hoping somebody can record it. I will be traveling for work, and I will be gone for a few weeks, but I'm hoping that somebody will be there and can record it for those of us unable to attend. So if that's you, please reach out to the office and volunteer. It's not hard. Just if you're gonna be there anyway, might as well. Okay. So that was the first email that I saw. All right. And then we get this one. We're looking forward to implementing this next phase of the project. You will be receiving an email through Front Steps. And if you're missing it, please let them know so they can fix your email address. Again, Monday the 17th, 9 to noon, 1 to 4. Please print the form. This is the exact same email. Bring your cash or check. And then it gives you the same. So this must be the exact same thing, except we've changed Appfolio to Front Steps. And yeah, the font's different. Okay. Here's the instructions for the adhesive credentials. So we're going to put it on or around our rear view mirror. Tag mounting location. That's right here above your rear view mirror. And then if you're on a motorcycle, I guess gone are the days of them just opening the gate for the motorcycles. But you've got your windshield here, and then your transponder is going to go right here in the middle of that. Okay. What's I think is important here, I drive a Subaru. Subarus have what they call eyesight. And I will just show you. In my Subaru manual, do you see this? It should be in red, but I'm sure it's so you can see it. The circle with the line through it. Do not put anything between the rear view mirror and this little thing that sits on the dash, which I have, because this is all of your eyesight stuff. So it's this direction, top rear view mirror to bottom at the dash, and it's from one side of where the sun visor attaches beyond the other side. So like in this gray area, And on this part of your dash, there should be nothing added to your vehicle. So know that if you have a car with eyesight or any type of security monitoring, safety measures in place just do not impede that. Make sure you look at your car manual and know where you should and should not, because if you put something somewhere and your safety measures fail and you go to file an insurance claim and they're going to say, why is this here? We specifically tell you in your manual not to put anything here, and you did, and this failed, and that is not on us. That is on you. And I do not believe, from what I have seen so far, that our POA will take responsibility for that. So just know what's in your manual for your car's safety features, okay? But this is mine for my Subaru Ascent. I will not be putting this sticker in my car. All right, what is this one? Okay, so when we talk about, let me just go through here. This is the form you're going to fill out. You're going to fill out your name. You're going to fill out whether you're an owner or a rental. You're going to put your saint address, your street address, your email address, your phone number, your year, make, model, and color of your vehicle, and then you're going to sign it. Okay? Now, when you do this information, this is all personally identifiable information. And in the United States, let me just say, in the United States, we do not have a lot of information or a lot of regulation around protecting your personal information. In the European Union, they have what is called the General Data Protection Regulation. It's GDPR. And that mandates what companies, we are a nonprofit company, our POA is, what companies must obtain. They must obtain explicit consent from individuals before collecting personal data via RFID, including transparent notification of how that data will be used and stored. This applies even if the RFID data itself isn't explicitly considered personal data under the law, but it's potentially linked to personal information that raises privacy concerns. Okay. So in the United States, we don't really have what is equivalent. Like, we don't really have anything equivalent to the GDPR. What we do have is the CCPA, or the California Consumer Privacy Act, which was modeled after the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation. But what I did find was the United States Federal Trade Commission did respond to the European Union on its recommendations for implementing privacy and data security and information security principles in applications supported by radio frequency identification. And I want us to read through this, because a lot of the things that I heard at the annual budget meeting that we had in January and since on Facebook and reading the forums, I think this ties to a lot of the concerns that people that have concerns about privacy and security of their information has. So, introduction, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission's approach to protecting consumer privacy. The Federal Trade Commission is a general jurisdiction consumer protection agency with responsibility for enforcing national consumer protection laws, including laws related to the privacy and security of individual information. Although the FTC enforces a number of sector-specific privacy and data security laws, its primary authority derives from its General Consumer Protection Statute, Section 5 of the FTC Act. Under Section 5, the FTC has broad authority to challenge unfair or deceptive acts or practices in or affecting commerce. Because of the flexible nature of this authority, the FTC frequently has found itself on the forefront of privacy and other consumer issues arising from emerging technologies. The FTC has used its Section 5 authority to address many different types of harmful practices related to consumer privacy, including deceptive claims that companies have made about their privacy practices or level of security they employ to protect consumer data. The FTC has also brought cases under its unfairness authority challenging privacy and data security practices that caused or were likely to cause harm to consumers, not outweighed by the benefits to consumers or competition. Although the FTC's legal authority in the privacy area is broad and flexible, we apply a consistent standard designed to protect consumer privacy and to send clear signals to the industry. We expect companies to take reasonable steps to address risks to the security and privacy of individual information. This flexible, process oriented approach allows us to take into account differences in the size and complexity of the range of companies that we regulate, as well as the sensitivity of the information at stake. It also allows us to respond to developments related to new and emerging technologies without the need for technology specific regulation. The focus on this approach is on assessing risks to consumer information throughout its life cycle, from collection to storage to transmission to disposal, and then on adopting safeguards that are reasonable and appropriate to mitigate the identified risks. A failure to take such appropriate steps to address risks to consumer information could result in a Section 5 action by the FTC, either under its deception authority, where a company makes promises about privacy or data security practice that it fails to keep, or under its unfairness authority, where the failure to take reasonable steps to protect consumer privacy results in actual or likely harm. In addition to its vigorous law enforcement, the FTC also places a high priority on outreach and education. We inform consumers about emerging threats and strategies for protecting themselves from harm using a wide variety of media, from printed materials to our well-known On Guard online website for consumers. On Guard Online includes an extensive online tutorial for consumers divided into sections such as wireless security, phishing, social networking, and online shopping. We also inform industry of their obligations under the law and encourage responsible self-regulating practices. For example, the FTC has developed guidance entitled Protecting Personal Information, a guide for business, designed to assist small and medium-sized businesses in developing information security plans. The FTC has long supported meaningful industry self-regulation, particularly when it comes to rapidly evolving technologies and business practices where industry is in position to anticipate how a particular technology will be deployed and how it might affect consumers. The FTC also addresses emerging issues through public workshops. For example, in 2004, the FTC held a workshop devoted to RFID, radio frequency identification, applications, and implications for consumers. The FTC staff subsequently published a workshop report that analyzed the present and potential uses for RFID and the relevant benefits and countervailing concerns associated with those applications. The report was issued in 2005, also offers some specific recommendations for industry conduct involving consumer uses of RFID. So there were several different points that the FTC responded to the European Union's recommendations on their general data protection regulation. And so I think all of these things apply to us. Before an RFID application is implemented, which is where we are now, it is being implemented. We are getting stickers to be used going through the system. The RFID application operators, who are they, should conduct individually or jointly with a common value chain a privacy impact assessment to determine what implications its implementation could raise for privacy and the protection of personal data, and whether the application could be used to monitor an individual. Okay? The level of detail of the assessment should be proportionate to the risks associated with the particular RFID application. The assessment should comply with good practice frameworks to be established in a transparent way in partnership with all relevant stakeholders and in consultation with the relevant supervisory data protection authorities. So these were two recommendations that the European Union was going to be putting in their general data protection regulation, and the FTC is responding to these two things. The staff of the FTC encourages companies deploying RFID technology to assess the potential risks to consumer information and to take reasonable steps to mitigate the identified risks. In fact, this is the approach we recommend in our Data Security Guidance for Business, Protecting Personal Information, a Guide for Business, and the approach that underlies our enforcement in the data security area. The EC's draft recommendation takes a similar risk-based approach with its suggestion that RFID application operators conduct a privacy impact assessment and that the level of detail of the assessment should be proportionate to the risks associated with the particular RFID application. We agree that a risk-based approach is appropriate in this area, but we believe that technology-specific regulation is premature at this time. Although the EU and the US have different legal frameworks for protecting consumer privacy, we believe that the enforcement of existing laws coupled with industry self-regulation is the best way to address consumer privacy and data security concerns related to the deployment of RFID technology. Next recommendation, the RFID application operator should make the privacy impact assessment or an adequate and comparable summary of it publicly available through appropriate means no later than on the date of deployment of the application. Again, for those of us new to Fairfield Harbor or who are just kind of queuing in on this from an RFID perspective, we have been asking, what are the data elements? We have this form, right? We know you're going to be collecting your make, model, plate number of our vehicle, our name, our email address, and our address, right? Like, we know that these are the things that you are going to be collecting. What else can these RFID protectors or detectors pick up? For those of us like myself who use wallets that are RFID protecting, like, I don't understand why I would put something in my car that is detectable to an RFID when I take other means to protect information from the same process. So anyway, I say that to say it's important that we know before implementation everything that's being collected and how it plans to be used and what means are being taken to protect all of our information from any kind of data breaches or security implications. So the FTC's response. FTC staff supports transparency with respect to companies' deployment of RFID and has encouraged companies to publicize to consumers how their information is being collected and used. However, with respect to the provision in Article 3.6 that the privacy impact assessment be made public, the staff of the FTC suggests that the EC clarify that the information to be made public should not relate to the entity's privacy and information sharing practices and not to its information security measures. FTC staff believes that making public information related to the data security measures might increase the possibility of making the application more vulnerable to hackers or other types of security threats. For the same reason, although FTC staff agrees that it is important to make interested stakeholders aware of the privacy practices that govern a particular application, such as in an online privacy statement, we have some concerns about mandating that a company publicize identified security risks. And that makes sense, right? Like, if you don't want to publicize how everything is going to be protected, it's going to be in these databases, they're going to be offsite in this location. Like, we don't have to get that level of granularity, but understanding what's being collected and at the very least, your commitment to making sure that it stays private and secure, that's what we're asking for. Code of conduct. So again, recommendation from the EU. Member states should encourage trade or professional associations or organizations involved in the RFID value chain to provide detailed guidance on practical implementation of RFID technology by drawing up specific codes of conduct on RFID use. Where appropriate, this work should be undertaken in collaboration with the concerned civil society organization, such as a consumer organization or trade union, and or the competent authorities concerned. Codes of conduct should contain specific measures designed to ensure that signatories adhere to their principles. They should be widely disseminated with a view to informing affected individuals. This is FTC's response. FTC staff agrees that the commission, that industry, in conjunction with other stakeholders, should be encouraged to provide guidance on practical implementation of RFID. As stated above, the FTC has long supported meaningful and effective industry self-regulation. However, FTC does not explicitly endorse industry guidance. Instead, we consult with industry about their obligations and encourage them to develop meaningful standards that will protect consumers. Article 5, where RFID applications are implemented in public places, RFID application operators should make publicly available a written, comprehensible policy governing the use of their RFID application. As noted above, the FTC has encouraged companies to publicize to consumers in a privacy statement how their information is being collected and used. We believe that this serves an important role in making consumers aware of potential issues and risks to their personal information and allows them to make informed choices to protect themselves. We get to protect ourselves at all costs, okay? Our choice to fill out this form and hand it over to somebody to collect information in an electronic means to give us a sticker to track our comings and going, that is a choice. That is not a requirement. You get to make the informed decision based off of the information that you were given, whether or not you were going to follow this process to access your own property. We believe this serves an important role in making consumers aware of potential risks, issues, and risks to their personal information and allows them to make informed choices to protect themselves. In the context of an emerging technology such as RFID, statements about how the technology works and what personal information it collects are especially important to dispel any consumer fears about the technology and to inform consumers about what they can do to protect themselves from inappropriate uses of the technology. So, how it's used, why it's used, what's collected, how it's protected. We use that information to decide if this is a service that we are going to choose to partake into, right? It's a choice. Article 6, Information Security Risk Management. Member states should encourage RFID application operators to establish information security management in accordance to state-of-the-art techniques based on effective risk management in order to ensure appropriate technical and organizational measures related to the assessed risks. The security threats and the corresponding security measures should be understood as covering all components and interfaces of the RFID application. U.S. FTC response. As the FTC staff noted in its 2005 RFID workshop report, there was a general consensus at the workshop that many of the privacy concerns associated with RFID technology implicate broader database security issues. Although RFID may facilitate more data collection, the real issue is ensuring that there are appropriate safeguards for that data as well as data linked to RFID data. Because, right, then we start to create tentacles for our data. So there's going to be data able to be linked to the RFID data collected here. Okay. Similarly, the FTC staff encourages its counterparts in the EC to focus on risk-based approach to information security management, risk management that takes into account risks beyond the point of collection through the entire life cycle of the data, including access controls, security of data in transmission and at rest, and the secure disposal of data. FTC staff agrees with the suggestion in the draft recommendations that security threats and the corresponding security measures should be understood as covering all components and interfaces of the RFID application. We encourage the EC to clarify that this applies to back-end databases as well as front-end application interfaces. We don't really need to talk about it in terms of retail use. That's not the intended purpose of our RFID technology yet. So I'm going to skip through this. Awareness raising actions. Member states, in collaboration with industry and other stakeholders, should take appropriate measures to inform and raise awareness among companies, in particular SMEs, subject matter experts, on the potential benefits associated with the use of RFID technology. Specific attention should be placed on information security and privacy aspects. As described above, the staff of FTC believe that awareness raising actions are vitally important, particularly in the context of an emerging technology such as RFID. The FTC staff particularly supports the attention given in this section to small and medium-sized enterprises that might not be aware of the potential benefits of using RFID technology. In conclusion, The staff of the FTC appreciates the careful consideration of consumer privacy and data security issues related to RFID applications, as well as the willingness to engage with stakeholders outside of Europe on those important issues. The FTC staff supports the EC's risk-based approach to addressing potential consumer privacy and data security issues related to the use of RFID technology. The FTC staff also agrees with the EC that there's a need to raise consumer awareness about RFID technology in order to enhance consumer trust and give consumers the tools to protect themselves from the risk of misuse of their information. Given the current stage of deployment of consumer-facing RFID application, however, the FTC believes that mandating or encouraging specific technological tools for protecting consumer privacy is premature. The staff of the FTC looks forward to continuing our work with EC counterparts. So, again, I think I took from this and all the other research that I have done on RFID technology that it is incumbent on ourselves to protect ourselves and our data. If we choose to fill out a credit card application, if we choose to fill out this form to get an RFID tag to come and go from our community, we are choosing to fill out that information and we are trusting based on documentation provided, on data elements collected, privacy statements provided, that who we are giving our information to has our security and the privacy of our information at the utmost importance, and they're taking appropriate means to identify risks associated with that data and understanding the complete life cycle from getting the data to disposing of the data after someone leaves our community, right? Whenever you sell your home and you no longer live in Fairfield Harbor, at what point is your data disposed of? Can it ever be sold? What other data elements are you able to connect the dots on aside from the information that I provide you in this form? It's incumbent on me as a consumer of goods and services in this community, right? Like I give you my dues to spend on goods and services that go to maintaining and improving the community that we live in. It is up to me to make sure that I feel like you're doing your due diligence. So without getting any information on data elements collected, how we are maintaining the privacy and security of that data, and what the life cycle of that data looks like, including the disposal of that data once I no longer live here, I'm not giving you my data. I gave you my data for the free sticker that I got when I moved in. When that sticker no longer works, I will be using the guard gate to go through. But I'm not choosing to volunteer information not knowing how you plan to use it when I can't even understand how the monies that we give you for the budget every year are being used in the appropriate means. Case in point, the lawsuit conversation that we just had a few minutes ago, 30 minutes ago at this point. So like I have trust issues with the board. And again, I think that the way in which Les's email today rolled out, the way that the Hope Carmichael's letter to the attorney for the 74 people that are suing the community read, I have trust issues. I'm just going to leave it at that. And until there are measures taken to rebuild that trust in a meaningful, mature way, I don't see that changing for me. But I do love living here. I love my neighbors. I love everybody that I've met in this neighborhood. There's very few, if any, exceptions to that. And I know there are more people moving in. I just met some this past weekend that are excited to move here. This lawsuit does not deter them. They expect that there's going to be just in and amongst a community of people, there's going to be division at some point. It's just how we choose to approach it in a mature adult fashion. But I'm excited for the people that are moving in here. I think they are only going to continue to add value. And I will continue to say that I do not think that for the majority of people that voted the last two board members out last year, even though it was a month ahead of the election in which they would have likely been voted out anyway, I think the way that this vote was handled, and I think that I am gonna leave it with the fact that it is a majority. It is not a small percentage of people. It was 52.31% of those people that voted in the last election. And so I think that it is, um, just not transparent, and it is not forthcoming, and it is not, an honest appropriation of how things actually happen to say that this continues to be spurred on by a small percentage of our community. I don't, I just, that's just not an honest assessment of what's happening here. So, with that, we talked about the lawsuit update. We talked about the RFID technology. I hope that you will take it upon yourself to know all the ways in which you share information electronically and in person, in a tangible way, and that you are taking measures to protect yourself from phishing, from hacking, from, um, all kinds of there's so many predators out there, looking for ways to take advantage of people, that because we just live in such a fast-paced world, it's so hard to keep up with who's doing what, when, and how it's being done and all that stuff. Things are moving so fast. So I hope that you are doing your due diligence to protect yourself in these wild and crazy times. So with that, I am going to let you go, but I hope you have a great rest of your week and a wonderful weekend. I hope you warm up. Gosh, this ice, I'm so tired of ice and snow. But I will talk to you soon, and I'll see you around the neighborhood. Bye.